Welcome to Worlds Cooldown presented by State Farm. I'm LaTigress, and on the final day of our play-in stage and the final day of our first week of Worlds, I'm happy to be joined by none other than Mark Z, Raz, and Spawn, who we'll be hearing from plenty here today, as well as some words from No Man's as we have an interview lined up. We'll finally be finding out exactly where these teams will be competing during the group stage. We do have a moment before that happens. Spawn, we had a whole best of 5 between the first one we had of the day where we got to hear from you a bit on the analyst desk. As swift as it was, what was your reaction to this Unicorns of Love victory?
Yeah, I mean, this time around, I actually came in with pretty high expectations for Supermassive. I thought that they were definitely going to have a stronger top side of Summoner's Rift. However, UOL just flipped the script. This was incredibly decisive. Their team fighting was so good. Even from deficits, they were able to eke themselves out advantages. And I also think their neutral objective control was quite good in this best of 5. So, you know, hats off to Unicorns of Love. They definitely appeared to be the better team.
Yeah, we saw some very amazing performances from all of the players during that series. And let's go ahead and zone in on one of those in our Every Second Counts, powered by Cisco, where we saw Gadget and Boss really putting the work down with their fast reaction Raz in the bot lane.
Yeah, this one was just Gadget styling because Snowflower tried to set up the play for the Misfortune, completely whiffed, and Gadget just went wild. Gadget's had such a damn good tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a sick play. It was the second time in a row he'd actually done that. There's a team fight earlier where he was able to kite out the Rakan engage. Just super intelligent play out of him, and someone who I'm excited to watch more of as the tournament goes on now that they have qualified into the actual group stage of the tournament.
Yeah, I was just wanted to put in there the fact that he is playing really well on conventional AD carries, and he showed that at the back half of the play-in tournament. In the first half of the play-in tournament, he just showed incredible depth in champion pool, so yeah, definitely a player to watch out for.
And that's exactly what we want to see from these play-ins, right? The players that we are wanting to watch when they go into the group stage and are truly put to the test. And as we mentioned before, the draw itself is going to be underway momentarily in Shanghai. And we're going to be watching exactly where these 4 teams will be advancing and sorted within the 4 groups that are available. This will be conducted by LPL host Candice and will feature Team WE Jiaomeng, the LPL rookie of the split for summer 2020. Fellas, are you ready?
Yes!
Where the fates are held.
Let's go!
I'm excited. I'm a pessimistic NA fan, so I assume the worst, but hope for the best.
That's really all you can do, right? I mean, interesting thing about this, though, is we kind of potentially have everything determined.
Yes.
Exactly off of the very first draw, Raz.
So if Unicorns of Love gets slotted into Group A, and it's then everything is decided. Then Team Liquid goes into Group B, PSG goes into Group D. Resolved incredibly quickly. We'll just have to see how it goes, though.
Little tidbits for the audience. So LGD must go into Group C. That's already decided, taken off of the table. Team Liquid cannot go into Group D, and PSG cannot go into Group A. And soon enough, we're going to be finding out which is the first team to be sorted.
And I'm glad I'm with a lot of other people that love to do the playoff math, because I'm just that person that always just waits to see the balls open and the group drop in, because, you know, it's very tough to be able to keep up with everything. But PSG will be picked up first, and I believe, don't quote me on it, does that mean they go to Group B?
Yeah, I should go to Group B.
All right. Yeah, so this does mean that PSG should be slotting themselves into Group B, which, interestingly enough, Mark, this does affect the fate of our LCS representative.
Yes, I mean, this, like we said, can get decided right away. Team Liquid now has to go into Group A because LG has to go in Group C, and D is the only one left. So still some formalities to go through with picking out all the balls and showing them all out, but it's actually you know, pretty much decided from here. There you see LGD, and they the only group that doesn't have a Chinese team in it right now is Group C. So there they go right into there.
So Group B and Group C already decided, leaving very little to fate for the rest. That means that we know where the rest will happen. But is there a reason that either of the teams should be excited so far, Spawn, for the way things have played out, whether it be PSG Talon or even Team Liquid?
I mean, when you have a look at PSG Talon, they're probably wringing their hands because they've just been put into a group with JDG as well as Damwon Gaming, and Rogue on their best days, I feel like, can also cause some big upsets. Team Team Liquid, on the other hand, they go into a group with Suning, who have limited international experience, G2, who did appear to be slumping, but they certainly ramped it back up in the end of the LEC split, and Machi, who I think is probably the weakest Seed 1 team coming out of a major region. So I think Team Liquid fans should be certainly happy with Group A. If there is a team that they can do a group they can do damage in, it probably is that group. I still don't have them earmarked for favorites, but you know, we'll get into the nitty-gritty a little bit later.
And Unicorns of Love officially drawn from the bucket, and that means they will be placed over into Group D to round things out. And hey, if anyone was tuning into that last series, it's definitely going to invigorate you going forth into groups in terms of just having a good time watching what Unicorns of Love bring to the table.
Yeah, they're such a fun team to watch, Unicorns of Love. I mean, you always go straight into how their drafts have played out. I was always interested in how they set up the map, and because they're such a great team fighting squad, and they've, I think, done a great job, like Spawn said a little earlier on, in setting up their type of fight. So for sure, like the quote-unquote wild card in Group D, like Top Esports and FlyQuest, and DRX should not kind of be resting on their laurels when they go up against this team, because it's a best-of-1 environment. Like if you lose that game, it feels awful, and we've seen those experiences in the past with Albus Nox Luna.
Right, now that we do know where everything is going down, though, I do want to take it group by group. In Group A, that is where Team Liquid has been slotted. Spawn already gave some initial thoughts that we'll dive into a bit deeper on how these teams are. But I actually want to start off with you, Raz, because when we were just talking, generally speaking, going into this, you seem to have a bit different, I guess, tier list in the way the teams are playing out in Group A than the other analysts we have here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Suning are an incredibly strong team. I know they're the C3 team. They've, at least in the back half of the split, have shown a strong showing. They had like a 7-series win streak in the regular season on the back half of it. Their playoff run was great until they went against Top Esports, the Seed 1 team. Like they're such a strong team across the map. I think their bot lane and of course jungle, like SOFM is a fantastic jungler coming into this one. I would put them in first place, and I would have G2 as a second place team. I think it's going to be a tough one for Team Liquid and Machi. I would slot Machi as a last place team, and I think it's going to be between the Western teams to fight for second.
Yeah, I also think Machi does get a little bit of a positive light shine on them with PSG's performance in the play-in stage and how dominant they looked. I do think it's going to give people a little bit more of a concern about how well Machi's going to play. But it is an interesting situation with how these teams play. Wunder is always fantastic come Worlds. You know, he's a bit of a a clutch player in that sense, where he's playing WoW during the regular season. He's a meme about how he doesn't care, and then he gets onto the world stage and he's one of the best top laners every year. Then you also have Bin, who is a monster carry threat. He's still really young, but does like playing those carry versus carry matchups. Team Liquid is as far away from those playstyles as you can imagine, where Impact is pretty much always just the weak side player. So I think you'll see a lot of cool style clashes in this group as well.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to mention, is that at the moment, we have two teams that are going to play very slow in Machi as well as TL, and very much group up around objectives, and two teams that play like blitz-style League of Legends. You know, that old creative style that we like, style of me, especially in the jungle position for Suning. He's very much like take small skirmishes and generate numbers mismatches by being very decisive in his play. It's always been something to look out for, is his raw aggression and his ability to invade off specific backs. So, I mean, I'm very excited about the Suning team. I do want to reiterate, however, that, once again, whilst there are a few members that have played for a while, this team internationally is untested, and we have seen LPL teams in the past show up untested and falter in best of ones. Because you got to remember, this region plays primarily best of threes into best of five, so best of ones can catch them off guard just a little bit at the start of the tournament.
I think also Team Liquid did have a really good showing in play-ins, and I think a lot of North American fans can be happy about how well they played. But it is kind of one of those like shonen anime arcs, where it's like, and now the real test begins. Like you kind of got through that first arc, and now it's where everyone becomes such monsters. And this is where I think some of the concerns that people had about North America coming into this competition, about the slow play, about the lack of topside, carry threats for some of their teams like FlyQuest as well. Like this is when you'll start seeing if they get exposed, or if they were playing a better style than we anticipated all along. These are the teams that were going to exploit it. I think a lot of people should have been confident about TL in play-ins, and it's a totally different ball game now.
And I'm sure a lot of people are excited to tune in to see what happens there, especially considering that variability in the overall, I guess, analysis from multiple people in it, where these teams end up, G2 with the volatility they have, but they are still the #1 seed. If we're going over to Group B, though, I think a lot of people are aligned with some of the difficulty that could be coming out of this group. But Mark, first impressions, how exactly should we be digesting this, considering the strength of some of these teams that are coming through?
I mean, you got two tournament favorites slapped together into groups. I think Damwon and JDG are two of the top 3 teams in the tournament, with Top Esports being the other one. And so already, I think people are basically saying, all right, those 2 teams are getting out. Rogue, PSG, thanks for showing up. And I think, you know, that's how the feeling is for a lot of people, myself included. But I am curious to see if they can actually make some noise here for Rogue and PSG now that they've slotted in after this group draw. Because JDG and Damwon were so good in their regions. I mean, Damwon absolutely crushed LCK. JDG and Top were basically the top 2 teams all year long in the LPL, and most people were not that close to them.
And I'm really excited for this group for a couple of different reasons and some specific one-on-one clashes. I'm a massive fan of Zoom. I actually asked Raz, who we thought beforehand was better out of Zoom and 369 out of the 2 LPL top laners. And Noguri obviously has had an absolute tear of a season. On the flip side, Kanavi as well, rookie jungler coming in this year, making huge tidal waves in the LPL, going up against Inspired from Rogue. I also think that that is going to be a very good one-on-one matchup. And whilst I do agree with Mark that there are 2 favorites, I kind of like to see the map break down a little bit in the group stage as well, and to see who are those pop-off players. Because I feel like if Damwon Gaming's Noguri is playing in world best form, that launches Damwon Gaming back into like the legitimate, like, you know, nearly top tournament contender, just because top lane at Worlds seems to be a huge decisive factor in who is able to take out team fights. Top lane carries for the last couple of years have played a huge role at Worlds, and Noguri was supposed to be that top laner last year. He had some high moments, but a couple of lows. Hopefully we see more consistent highs out of him this time around.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just love, I want to see how JDG slots into this group. For me, this was the group of death, just because, as we already mentioned, like PSG, Talon, and Rogue coming into this one. I don't see a way in which they can come in. Obviously, they can find some way to surprise. I think PSG, Talon is probably, for me, the wild, like, they're a wild card in the sense that they're now starting River and Tank. Like, that's now a different team. Kongyue and Uniboy are a much more fast-paced duo. They have a lot more carries within their in how they play assassins, I guess, because like Echo is such a Kongyue pick, and now they're going to be a lot more slow-paced towards team fights. Like that, they're going to be a completely different unit. I think they will come in at 4th. That one for me is hard to tell. Rogue, I really want to see what level they're going to be at, because when they are good, Larson for me is fantastic to watch. And, of course, their bottom lane as well in Hansama. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how much they've leveled up from playoffs in domestically till now. But I don't think there's any world in which they unseat JD and Damwon.
Yeah, I think Rogue kind of had that we're dominating regular season, crash into playoffs a little bit. I think they recovered better than Mad Lions, where they were still able to 3-0 Mad Lions and have a 3-2 series versus G2. Like you said, they're a pretty well-rounded team where they had all-pro second team for basically everyone but Finn. And that is kind of where the scary part comes for them, because as Spawn was already hitting off Noguri with Zoom, like you're already so... You know, there's 2 massive threats in the top lane, and Finn was having a bit of trouble in Europe. So that's kind of the question mark for Rogue. If he can play weak side and they can actually play through their bot lane and mid lane a little bit more, I actually have a little bit more faith in them.
Does feel like there's a clear split in how you should be looking at this group, with the LCK and LPL representatives being heavily favored, Rogue coming in, and then we saw PSG Talon using substitutes during the play-in stage, and they'll have a whole new identity going on forward from here. Now moving on to Group C, we already knew that LGD was going to get slotted here. We have TSM, Fnatic, and Gen G as well. Spawn, initial impressions?
Yeah, this is one of those groups that to me appears to be wide open on surface level and is probably going to tell us a lot about regional strength and depth, right? Coming into this group, you have to take a look at Fnatic just because of their recovery towards the back end of the season as well, slotting in there for Europe. I think that these players historically have some of the players that do pop off on the international stage. Whippo, to me in particular, can be a huge X factor for this Fnatic lineup. However, you just also have to kind of, I think we're all like this about Gen G. Like, I'm a Gen G skeptic. Like, I don't know whether other people are as skeptic about me on Gen G, but I just look at this lineup and I think I should be so excited for them. You know, Rule one of the best AD carries in the world. BDD's amazing. Clit as well in the jungle has been so good. But for some reason, something just isn't sitting right for me about Gen G. And if there was a team that I was going to predict to fail in the group stage, like out of teams that you expect to be legitimate contenders, like on paper, they're a top 5 team in the world.
Don't say it.
Slot them in for some reason.
I'm just looking at the faces of the other 2 analysts here, and I feel like, Spawn, you're on your own island a bit.
Yeah, I'm not backing them up on that at all. I love Gen G. I love Ruler. I think the most you can say is that they have a different playstyle than what a lot of the top teams in the world seem to have, where they're a lot more bot focused. Life is a fantastic support, but he's less roaming oriented than a lot of the other top teams, where you see Lu Mao and Beryl getting out of the lane and making all these huge plays. You know, like they actually go bot lane a little bit more, but I still think they're fantastic. And bot lane is kind of the story of this group for me. I mean, you have historically probably the best AD carries in their regions all stacked up against each other. Reckless, Doublelift, Ruler, now all slammed together. Kramer, okay, never mind, not as much, quite as bit. But moving on from that, but I think it is a really interesting group for that reason, just in terms of narrative. That's really cool. And then, like Spawn was hitting on, this is the coin flip question mark ping group for me. Outside Gen G, I would not be shocked by anything because I have such a hard time putting anything down.
Yeah, and for me, whenever it comes to these groups that are like, they tend to be scrappy, Fnatic is there. Like last year, it was Fnatic unseating RNG and the RNG SKT like group of death in that one too, where it was equally as scrappy. And I was like, they're a team that for me is so hard to place because during that summer split, they had some real down moments. In fact, they almost like didn't even make playoffs in summer. But by the end of it, they looked really damn good. I mean, Gen G, I think will, for me, it's unquestionable that they would be in first place or at least just be in top 2, just because of how damn good Ruler, BDD, Clit are as individuals. Like in terms of player depth, they're great. In terms of team comps, like they always have like a consistent comp around team fighting. Like that's something that I would expect. I want to say, I want to say initially I was thinking Gen G and LGD before the play-in stage even started. I have lost faith in LGD.
Get off that bus, dude.
That one, I've gotten off the stop really early on. It's a little bit sus, and I noticed that it was going straight downtown, and that's not where I want to go. So I definitely have Gen G and Fnatic coming out of this group.
All right. Yeah, we saw lots of LGD and maybe a little bit of a break, reset, also fan expectations. Should be some interesting play in the bot lane from this group. Moving on to our last group, we got Group D, and this is where Unicorns of Love ended up getting slotted into the team that we just witnessed in the 3-0 difference. Mark, what are you thinking that's going to go down here? We also have FlyQuest, DRX, and Top, another top contender.
I would give this like a Group B light kind of vibe. I think Top, it feels like they could 6-0 this group. DRX has been a little shaky in Korea despite being the #2 seed. There was some controversy with them getting that over Gen G with the massive pause that happened, and they've been having some struggles draft. Chovy is incredible though. He people call him the hard carry, dragging that team in there. Much the way I was looking at bot lane for Group C. Group D for me is all about mid laners because then you got Knight, probably the best player in the world. People are arguing in the mid lane. And then obviously, there's some pretty good other players as well with Power of Evil and No Man's coming in. So I think this is just a really interesting group to watch around the mid lane. Yeah,
I mean, this group to me, and like maybe I'll annoy half the world right now, right? But this Group B is the exact same as Group B. It's like a DRX Top, and then FlyQuest and UOL are just really nice guys. Like, they're great guys. Like, I have nothing personal.
Nice guys finish last.
They're amazing people. Like, the things that FlyQuest are doing with, like, the Sea Quest and the World Quest, I respect the absolute hell out of that. But DRX and Top Esports, for me, are in a 2-horse race for who comes out of this event. Much like Mark, I am much more on the Top Esports hype train. I think when you have a look at 369, Raz, I know you're a big fan of him. I love LP top laners as well. However, the return of Jackie Love to a top team is probably the storyline I would focus on in this group, especially going up against Deft, historically an LPL AD carry. I say that in quotation marks. I know he's an LCK player now that has, like, always been one of the better ones over there. So Jackie Love versus Deft is probably the lane that draws my eyes the most.
Yeah, I mean, like, exactly right. Like, it's crazy for me. Top esports are the tournament favorite for me. Like, they have the best mid laner. They have a top 2 like AD carry. I know for me it's going to be between Ruler and Jackie Love in that regard. Like top lane 369, I think is just such a damn good top laner. Top 2 top laner between him and Nuggery. They're just the stacked lineup.
Jungle? Come on, Karsa? Is he
Karsa is insane. I almost forgot about Karsa.
Yeah, keep
Karsa,
going.
Yeah, guys, let's keep going.
Get them all out.
Karsa is just an insane jungler, and I've always had him like being a top 2 jungler in the LPL. And for me, they just stacked up the most insane roster domestically, and they will run roughhouse in this tournament. So for sure, top esports are taking first place. There's no question about that. DRX, I think, will take second. I think that's what everyone believes. I just want to know what kind of damage Unicorns of Love does and FlyQuest does.
None.
FlyQuest are... Unicorns of Love will just... okay, I'll at least see UOL. You got to give me UOL now.
And, I mean, DRX has had their problems. I could see this whack, you know, UOL draft with some mages in the bot lane and things go south for them. Like, it's not out of the ordinary. I think top esports, I agree, probably not going to happen.
All I'm saying is Def's back would have to be like a quagmire, like an absolute fraud for him to not be able to carry like with Chovy out of this group. Like, in my opinion, like once again, nothing against you guys on FlyQuest and Unicorns of Love. I'm sure you're great people, but I just see too much class on the DRX roster. Sure, when they get into the best of 5s against better teams, I will start questioning Pioshik as well as Doran because I think they have been quite rocky. But I just see the 2 carries being too good on DRX.
Look, and to be clear, I'm not saying DRX is not getting out. For sure, I think they're second place. I'm just saying Unicorns of Love and FlyQuest are going to catch a body. And that means a tiebreaker. You got to prove yourself to get out of this group
between
a
2
second.
of them? Is that what we're arguing about? That they'll take 1 win? Okay,
they'll
maybe
take
they will.
1. Yeah. Unicorns of Love, they'll take a win. All right, we got to make this interesting because for sure I agree with you. Group B and Group D, tough as hell groups.
I tried to make it interesting in Group C, and you guys all just yelled at me about it. Like, if there's one group to make it interesting about, surely it's Group C. Like, why are you dying on the Group D hill here, Raz?
Because it's the draft. They will win.
No, listen. I mean,
Because I'm a Ruler fanboy. That's why for me.
Yeah, and you all just saw the same series that I did, right? We just witnessed a play-ins with plenty of tiebreakers to kick things off. Unicorns of Love bringing the mess all across in the best way possible with the upsets. But we've been trying to figure out things here. I'd rather hear from a player that's actually going into the group stage from one of these teams. And luckily for us, QuickShot was able to get some words from Unicorns of Love's very own Nomans.
Thank you very much. I'm QuickShot, joined by Nomans from the victorious Unicorns of Love, the very first LCL team to advance to the group stage in play-ins since this format was introduced. Nomans, congratulations. What does it mean to you to win in such dominating fashion?
I mean, actually don't feel that happy. It was just like, feels like a Scream game, but on stage. Yeah. But overall, I'm glad we can go to groups.
What I love about this, Nomans, is the self-assuredness, self-confidence, the way that you played on Kassadin and Vayne, the way your team has played throughout the entire play-ins group stage. Did you expect to win as easily as you have?
Kinda, yes. I mean, we just know Supermassive really good. So, yeah, they couldn't surprise us with anything in this series. So, yeah, we were expecting everything, so it's easy to play.
Congratulations. Let's talk a little bit about the whole year. The most dominant team that the LCL has ever produced. You only lost 2 games all year locally. Now being the first LCL team to make it out of play-ins and in such dominant fashion, how far do you and the Unicorns of Love really expect to go in the World Championship?
Really expect, depends on group. Would be really good to go out of groups, right? And playing again, play best of 5 against like one of the best teams. And it really depends on group. So yeah.
honestly, I'm flabbergasted. The way you guys have played is just beautiful. And looking ahead to those group stages, do you think yourself and Gadget and Ananasik will still be able to play the same way with the champions that you're playing and still find the same success? Because it's not meta, but you guys make it look easy.
Yeah, I guess sometimes champions we pick is really good for a game. So they may be like not meta, as you said, but if they're really good in the game, like if enemy comp don't have damage to kill Swain ADC, right? Then it's just broken or good. So if you can find good drafts for us, then it's like, yeah, it's good, still as good as against these teams.
Fantastic.
I think it's much harder to find good draft.
I think it'll be interesting. The group draw is going to be coming up. We'll find out which group you go into in just a few minutes. No Mans, congratulations. A lot of European and English viewers are watching. I'm sure you know they love the Unicorns of Love organization. And the way that you play Castle and Vayne, you are building a lot of fans. Congrats on making it to groups, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Just broken, Raz. Just broken. Did No Man
broken.
give you confidence?
That's confidence. At first, when he started that interview, I was like, why is he so sad? What the heck? I was like,
Yeah.
you just threw out him. He's like, it's just a scrim. I was like, what?
They're already dead. Stop it.
Stop.
He was saving it for that delivery. Everybody, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we return, we'll have a look at this week's action, as well as paying some props to some pros that really stood out to us. More Worlds Cooldown after this.
That's crazy.
back to Worlds Cooldown presented by State Farm. I gotta tell ya, this was my first Worlds on the broadcast and it lived up to expectations. Plenty of surprises that we were able to witness throughout the entirety of play. And so let's go ahead, recap that a bit, go over some of our favorite moments now that it is done. Mark, we had a whole different vibe when it came to play-ins in total.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is easily the best play-ins we've ever had for Worlds. It was super hyped. There were upsets at all points throughout it. I mean, Mad Lions getting taken down, even though their lower seed is still huge. The first time a major region has lost the best of 5 at Worlds to a minor region team, and that was a monstrous upset. And I think this is so cool, and hopefully a moment that continues going forward, because a lot of the times I think people, kind of just skipped play-ins. They just assumed the major regions were going to make it through. And this time, no, that's not the case. You had to watch. It's super hype. It's setting the tone for the tournament. And I am excited to see that continue on going forward, hopefully.
Yeah, like the biggest shocker to me was LGD having to play that group stage match. Like, are they out of the tournament in group stage? Like, that is insane, because we would have expected them to be in first. Same thing happened at Mad Lions, but that set the tone for the entire play-in tournament.
Yeah, that really is what we're talking about when the tone of play-ins, and one big part of that spawn, while Legacy didn't quite make it the complete distance, they still had moments to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, when you're an Oceanic representative, what you're expected to come in is maybe upset a team or two on day one, go quickly downhill, pack your bags, have a nice holiday, and come back home. But I think Legacy this time around, they look like they were there to do serious damage. Shout out to Babip in particular. He was like one of those players in Rays down there in the bottom lane that just looked super promising and like actually very comfortable on the world stage. So when I thought about Legacy, 12 players leave your region from top 4 teams. Do you come in with super high expectations? Like, probably not, but they've had the best Worlds performance Oceania has ever put on.
Yeah, when we're looking at Worlds, it's kind of that one time a year chance for everybody to check in on all the regions. Mark, when we're looking at these upsets and the play-in region specifically, what does this instill in you when looking forward at the esports scene in total and the development of these players when coming at the best top competition?
I mean, as a NA fan, if you're asking me from that perspective, I'm looking at them like, who can we buy up now? These guys are all the young, new, up-and-coming talent. Let's get a Jose. Oh, I'll grab one of him. Oh, some of these new OS boys. We already grabbed a couple last year. They worked out great for us. Let's grab a couple more. Yeah, like Spawn was just saying, let's give me some bad. We'll grab him. We'll get a bunch of new junglers.
I'm not going to complain if that happens, because it just means that... we would get to see more of that action in our region. But Raz, actually, there's something specifically I want to call to, and it is the casting that you and Captain Flowers did during these playoffs. For anybody that missed it, let's take a look at one of the highlight moments.
Now it's Camille dealing with Hecarim. He's stuck in the Hextech ultimatum. He's burning away. He's got 50 HP left. Over the wall goes Kong, a beautiful 3-man facebreaker into a 4-man haymaker as Alone is trying to get himself away. It's a sleepy set, but he flashes over the wall. Take a nap and enjoy your rest. Everybody from the side of Rainbow 7 is going to be run down. Hanabi's getting himself away. He takes the mace to the face, but it's still going to be the A's. PSG Talon will rend them asunder.
Bard said, take that 1v1.
All right.
That was all Cap. What am I even what are you talking about? Cap, I love the man. Demacia Vice cast, that was slick. But honestly, this tournament was of duos that I enjoyed listening to, right? Even Kadrill and Quickshot in the LEC, like, in that studio, it was really fun being able to listen to them on that one too. I really enjoyed listening to the cast when I was just sitting at home.
And that's what I was going to say. A bunch of different regions coming together in a way different way for what Worlds normally is, right? I've done a couple now, and, I'm at home in Australia. We're dealing with a little bit of a latency issue through the world. Like, you got, people in homes, you got people in studios. Amazing and Yamato together, like, you probably wouldn't get that pairing at any other World Championship. I think that it's been really fun from a production level to see all these new people and new pairings, like, in between and around these games. As someone that's from an Oceanic representative, getting a world's opinion on your region, not having to just listen to me be boring over and over again, is like super refreshing and positive.
That's one of the things going into this world being very different than any other worlds we've experienced, what was going to come to the table. And I personally have thoroughly enjoyed the casting pairs that we have got to witness here on the broadcast. And one of the very first moments that we witnessed on the broadcast has to be one of the most epic. And I'm talking about when we saw the virtual stage, because Raz, I don't know if any of us were expecting what we saw.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect it. And honestly, I wonder what she sees, right?
Right?
How much of that is green? How much is that? One thing that I was concerned about coming into the Worlds event, knowing that you don't get that crowd vibe that I always loved in internationals. It was like, how hollow will it feel, right? How exciting and how much can it capture you from afar as a viewer? I loved that. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And honestly, I just wanted to see what would happen if she took one step forward. it's like just to make sure.
I mean, that's the good thing with the stage. They already gave us some great memes. The Mad Lions coach in the first game kind of like pathing incorrectly and almost looking like he was going to hop off the stage. I think there's a lot of great moments that have come out of that setup.
I really do wonder what you see. Is it just the screens? Is it green screens? Who knows? But I think above all else, when coming into this situation without a crowd, this is something that would have impressed in any scenario, not just our quarantine situation. So props to all of the members that went into making that possible. And as far as other things that we're going to be tracking and reflecting upon this week, I do want to check in with something that we have been keeping tabs on, and those are the CS Kings. This is our Mastercard Minion Champs leaderboard. Let's take a look. Of course, we're seeing this kind of for the first time with all of the results piling in. This is after the totality of the games we witnessed. Spawn, is it a surprise to you with the way that Humanoid was approaching the game to find him at the top?
No, definitely not. Humanoid, as far as Mad Lions goes, was like a blazing sun of light for that organization. Very disappointing result for Mad Lions, I'm sure, but it was a pleasure to watch Humanoid on the stage at Worlds for the second time. I think his maturity and growth has been insane, and he was certainly the hard carry. A lot more 80 carries coming in, apart from him, you know, Raze from Legacy in particular. I thought had a pretty amazing tournament.
Yeah, still showing the European mid laners got it. They can farm it up like no other. Because, like you said, everyone else, that's all 80 carries there, and it's a lot of in the mid lane, catch and farm while waiting for dragons to show up. It's they've kind of taken over the mid laners' job in that capacity.
Mid laners, top laners, bot laners. There were a lot of players that showed out throughout the entirety of play-ins. Let's go ahead and isolate some of those. Some of them we're going to get to see a bit more of during group stage. Others we are continuing to bid that farewell. First up on the deck, we've talked a lot about Jose Deodo and the impact he made as the jungler for Rainbow Seven.
Yeah, he was absolutely incredible. Probably the engine for that team in a lot of their games. And he went out on a good note, playing the Lee Sin, and able to find a number of kills onto the Kindred, really showing why that thing is even a counter pick at all. As soon as the ultimate was dropped by Peanut, he was getting punted out of there and finished off. But he showed a number of different champions as well. His Evelyn was incredible and looked like a monster carry threat.
I just enjoy watching that individual talent from these regions, right? Jose Deodo for sure was insane. The two champions that you had made a mention of, and I think we're for sure going to hear that name once again. It was once upon a time from Latin America, Audi, right? Audi, an insane jungler that we certainly saw him back on that international stage, and I'm sure that's not the last time we're going to be hearing from Jose Deodo.
Says the Golden Guardians Academy coach. But at the same time, I think that when you have a look at, like, I really want to tack on to what Mark was saying, because when you come from an emerging region or, one of these regions that hasn't yet got their security in the group stage, they have meta warping players. And like players that like demand a Lee Sin ban, or, that you will play like different comps. Like, they were saying on cast that teams would play, the support, the FLICKR and comps in the region, but if they gave him Lee Sin, they would still put Senna and Shen and all these different picks with it, just because of how well he played it. Kind of reminded me of the VCS jungler, Raz, the Levi's and the SOFMs of old, where they were just so good within their individual region that they made the jungle position a legitimate carry threat, and that's what it seemed like Jose Deodo did for the Rainbow Seven lineup.
He brought so much to the table and some flair to boot. If you go back and watch his player cam, Alorum drew a lot of attention to it on cooldown after that day. It really is truly a sight to see. Another player that instilled a lot of excitement was one we witnessed once more today, and that's Gadget, baby. I love the fact that we got to see that traditional Unicorns of Love energy through this player.
It's insane to watch him. He was, for me, him and Nomans were, of course, the core of the team because of the flexibility that they had in the draft. But then by the end of the tournament, he's just an insane Twitch player. He's just such a smart player in how he's able to find either an angle, this one on Kramer, of course, but that wasn't the only time he was able to find a pick on somebody on the map. And so, like, that one was a big surprise to me because at the front half of the play-in tournament, he was playing the champions like Swain or Orianna. He, for me, is the type of AD carry that can change a world meta. If you're in that group now, you have to be thinking about what are you going to be playing into a potential Orianna or Swain. And even listening to the interview from their jungler, like that's just how they love to play the game now. And so if you have an AD carry that is not only just like a mage player, but is such a damn good AD as well, like on conventional AD carries, then that changes how you want to play against them.
And I also do think we get caught up a little bit on Gadget, talking about the different champion picks and the versatility and stuff like that. I think fundamentally, he's just a really great player. When he plays weak side, he backs off turret. When he has team fights, he's actually always the last damage threat in. He counts out CC really well. Like, he just has solid fundamentals. And that's why he looks good on both mages and AD carries, because he's just playing the game correctly as far as you're supposed to do as a primary damage threat, which is what you are in the duo bot, right? So I mean, I agree. I think that one of his strengths is his versatility, but I would just like to shout out like how good fundamentally this guy is at League of Legends.
The true sneaky type play, whether he was on the Twitch or not. I love it. Another player that we also loved seeing was Babbitt over on the side of Legacy, another jungler that really managed to take control of the game.
Yeah, the only returning member from Mammoth. He was the last guy that kind of wasn't picked up to go over to the North American scene, and I think Babbitt came in with a big chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove. Oceanic junglers have historically been considered one of our weaker roles, but I think that Babbitt is starting to sway that narrative. And, you know, just looking at his versatility, was able to pick up wins on the farming junglers, did dip back into things like Jarvan, although it wasn't quite successful, but I love the confidence coming out of him, and this is certainly a guy, he's put in the hard yards in Oceania, played for a couple of the big organizations, so to watch him have a pop-off tournament was honestly, like, I was just really impressed and proud to call myself a Babbitt fan over the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, his Nidalee was super aggressive, always diving in. You said confidence, and you could definitely feel that exuding from him whenever he was jumping into team situations trying to find those assassinations, and more often than not getting them done.
Confidence. You got to have it when you're on the world stage. And another moment that would instill confidence if you're on the side of LGD fans comes up in our State Farm assist of the day, because they really did manage to pick things up here in the end with an impressive Quadra.
This is going to be set up really nicely by the Camille, locking in the Hextech ultimatum, and then setting up the Rift Walk for the Caston to get that kill. And then he's going to keep snowballing through this fight. Once Caston gets a couple kills, he's not going to stop. Picks up the triple in a very decisive team fight against Legacy. I'm sorry, Spawn.
Yeah, I mean, this was a heartbreaking moment, right? But you just got to give props to LGD with how well they set that up. It looked like Topoon was going to be able to keep the Caston out of the team fight. Thought he had the slam into the wall, but Shea buffers that really nicely, able to rejoin. And I love the way that you set that up, Mark, when we were talking about it earlier. It's like just dangling the bait out there. You know, do you want to go on Aliona, our big tanky member? We have the best re-engaged comp, I think, that we've seen in a while. And unfortunately for Legacy, like that game appeared to be on a silver platter, but it was yonked away from them by LGD, who seem to now be in very good form.
I feel like anytime we saw something happen to Legacy, we just have to turn to Spawn and say, I'm sorry. But Spawn, if you're looking overall at the day, I think there's got to be some mixed emotions, right? We already talked about the pride that you should have, but I just want to get that perspective on where you are currently. Maybe a mix of disappointment, but also carrying some of the positive energy on out.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you want like my brutal opinion, like I'm just even more annoyed at LGD than I was in 2015. Like, what the heck is this organization doing to my League of Legends career at this stage? They come into One Worlds as the favorites, absolutely flop, fall on their face, made me look like a fool, and now they've just booted out the one team that we've ever sent to Worlds that looked like it had a shot. Like, LGD, like, come on, help me out here a little bit. I want to love you, but like, this is just so hard at this point.
What a genuine reaction there. That's going to wrap it for what we saw, though, in terms of play-ins. Let's take a look at what we have coming on forward. Because, guys, we're officially going into group stage. We know what those groups are going to be. We know what we're kicking off with. Raz, how hype are you?
This is so much fun to look at. Even it's just, it gets you that Christmas type of feel, right? When you're looking at the presents. For me, I love right smack down in the middle of it, Damwon versus JDG. Like, I'm just already
okay.
That out. I'm gonna start out. I'm gonna kick right in there just to grab that out there.
All right, you know what? That's the best pick for probably going to be highest quality game, most important for the tournament, for judging what's going to happen. Who cares? Let me tell you, TSM versus Fnatic is where I'm looking. That is going to be the salt mines overflowing. This is the first clash that's really going on between NA and EU. I think a lot of EU fans seem to have already disowned Bad Lions. So like this is the one that's their pride's really on. You can't disown Fnatic. They are Europe, and TSM is North America in a lot of ways. So hype rivalry. A lot of these players have a lot of history as well. Like this is going to be such a treat for Western fans.
And I do want to call Game 2 the Battle of Cooldown Affection, because it's going to be my DRX going up against your guys' Unicorns of Love. And honestly, I cannot wait to watch that game with you fellas and just, be able to sit there and mock you as it goes very one-sided.
I was with you until that last moment, Spawn.
You're trying to force me to believe that I'm placing Unicorns of Love. It's like, I didn't say that. I just said at some point. I said at some point they're going to catch a body, but DRX is going to take second. That's what I said. You got to calm down now.
Is this the body they're catching?
This is some fake news out here. You got to relax. You got to calm down, Spawn. Get out there.
Body's gonna be dropping at some point, one way or another, on some side of the rift. So much for all of us to look forward to. Fellas, Mark, Raz, Spawn, it's been such a pleasure having you here on Worlds Cooldown. As we sign off, everybody, we're gonna take one last look at the play-in highlights courtesy of Axe. But for now, on behalf of myself, the casters, and all of the remote broadcast crews around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, everybody, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.
I bid you welcome to Worlds 2020. Now Humanoid's in a bad spot. Now Humanoid's going to be taken down, and now Tay is on the hunt. Flipping the Evelyn behind him, looking to walk around, able to find the kill, making a double, over to Tay, looking to grab even more. It's a triple kill for Urgot. Rainbow 7 is in some trouble, the backup has arrived, Kaguya is here, it's a first blood, it's a second blood.
Highwing steps back, forces lunging away that Baron down to 1,550. The shockwave from Uniboy is absolutely huge. Mark falls. Kramer's chased out by Hanabi. Team Liquid are finding their moments a little bit. JJ diving in. Kazi's going to try and put some damage down. Tackle opens up once again with Spray and Pray. Solar Flare used impact. Has the blank.
There and Archer's letting it rip. Arrow going to hit Shadow. There's Boogie going in. The Cocoon's going to land. Shadow going to try and dance out of there. But they are just going to get straight on top as Reyna getting there with a face breaker past the back line once again. The Blascoon's going to move Ace over as well. And that Justice Punch is going to force the flash. But Ace just follow flashes instead. And now UOL, they're going to try and save the cast. And they're going to TP in. No man's. He gets the kill. He's got mana back. He's going to go in as well. Archer getting low. He's going to get slain by Boss. Surely there's the double kill. He had no health. He had no hope. And somehow he's gotten 2 kills and assists, and he's almost back to half HP.
But Rainbow 7 from the Liga Latino America are turning it around on the LPL Sports seed. Kramer doing what he can, but Longshing's already fallen. Peanuts down. GA with the stun card across the wall. GA just about surviving. Alone going forward.
Here we go. Predator is ready to go. Jose Dioto's also here in the fight. He's going to blow up Gadget if he's not careful. Nice execution from the last Caress.
Over the wall. That was a multi-man stun coming out of No Man's. Mark is going to take a magical journey right into Gadget's hands. 1, 2, the spray and pray. Rat-a-tat-tat, LGD goes flat. The flash away.
A party's happening. They've seen one. Tally's going to charge up the taunt, but he's going to try and get a different target. Shadow to get one. Tally, no, it's Raze. He gets the dragon, and now he's going to start shooting down the duo lane. Oh, he gets one in the air. Oh, Kai's the last bullet. I love this. As soon as Longsheng sees Ase walking over the wall, they're immediately using the Twisted Fate. Mark goes in! Wow. Ase goes down! LGD, they find their chance and they immediately just jump on it. The call is for the Drake. Jose Dioto's able to secure it, but now the fight is breaking out. Peanut flashes over the wall. He's kicked out of his own Slam's Respite. Jose Dioto with the ultimate, with the displacement.
2K getting lower and lower. Can they secure it? Orome is taking down Snowflower. It's a messy fight. Who's going to finish it in the end? Shadow manages to find it, and that is massive.
He can get Cassiopeia.
Now coming out. Bolulu trying to find something. He's going to be dunking back. Now Cassio kicked off in the middle of the fight, but that's going to be a 3-man ultimate, and immediately the follow for more 3-man knockup. Humanoid burning, ticking, but he's got the Conqueror proc, and he's trying to run him down. Eyes on Zeitnot, though, as they're going to find one. Kakao getting a kill. Humanoid trying his little heart out, but it is simply not enough.
When a team from a major region comes in from a team against a minor region, it's all about the laning phase, blasting them, quick snowballs. Well, this Worlds has not been about that at all.